Thank you for joining me on another question and answer episode of my channel. This is Ask Pastor Nike, and my name is Nike Ayola. I want to appreciate you all, my subscribers and listeners, and especially the ones who trust me enough to ask these questions. I appreciate every response, every comment, and every sharing. And I promise you that I know myself enough to understand and appreciate that it's not my smartness or intelligence that responds to your genuine queries. And it's not from checking out textbook either, but the wisdom and knowledge from the Spirit of God who gave the assignment. To Him alone be all the glory and praise. The question I've been asked to address, and which I will be doing in this video, is this. In your view, how does the understanding of both the lion and lamb nature affect the way couples handle conflict, decision making, and vision setting in the marriage? Now, this is a three-in-one question, and I pray that I'll do justice to all the three aspects that the question is asking about, especially since each one is both practical and important. For the benefit of someone who may just happen to stumble on this video and hasn't any idea what the lion and lamb nature in marriage is all about, I want to do a quick summary of what it means, but you also have to do something very simple for me in return, and that is to subscribe to my channel right now. Do it right now, please. Thank you. The dual nature of Christ is represented or modeled in marriage like this. First, the lion nature of Christ is modeled by the husband, and this nature represents the following characteristics: authority, strength, and leadership, and then bravery, focus, and decisiveness, plus bullishness, being a protective defender, and finally, a sense of detachment. And secondly, the lamb nature of Christ is modeled by the wife. Her nature as lamb represents the following characteristics: submissive, sacrificing, from which the grace to be nurturing comes; unassuming and trusting; gregarious, that is pack mentality; friendly and playful; emotional; keen senses and keen memory; remarkable intelligence. The lamb has the ability to recognize other lambs and human faces as well; reticent; and finally, comparatively weak. Now, the plan of God is that full commitment to the assigned roles by the two people in the marriage, the husband and the wife, will transform these characteristics into strength and increased capacities so that what each one is lacking is supplied by the other person in a beautiful symphony of synergy and complementary capabilities. This is the question once again. In your view, how does the understanding of both the lion and lamb nature affect the way couples handle conflict, decision making, and vision setting in the marriage? Now, in my own opinion, I remember that this is what the question asked for, so my response is going to be subjective. Now, there are three important start-off steps that this team of two have to understand and progressively be engaged in doing. Number one is learn how to possess your own soul. Your joy and your peace is your job, not primarily your spouse's. The second thing is learn how to own your own skills, and in this case, the characteristics that are yours as either the lamb or the lion, with the understanding that its deployment should be for the common good or benefit. Number three is learn how to take responsibility for your own assignment. Human beings, since the fall of Adam and Eve in the garden, have been wired to pass the buck, and never take responsibility. Now, three different scenarios were mentioned in the question, so I'm going to address the three different scenarios one after the other. The first scenario is how to deploy the two natures for the purpose of handling conflicts. So for handling conflicts, and incidentally for the other two scenarios as well, the first thing the two of you have to agree on is a goal for the exercise. Your goal in conflict resolution must be for peace to reign. The two of you must have that as a common goal. That's what makes the deployment of the different natures work for the common good of both of you. And I think it's proper to define the kind of peace that we're talking about here. Because peace is not the same thing as absence of conflict or being silenced or being unable to voice your true feelings and emotions because of fear or backlash from the other person or from others who are working on behalf of the other person. Now, it's dangerous to ever assume that your spouse's silence means peace. I heard a wisdom quote once, that says that if you are wrong in the way you are right, you are still wrong. That is to say that Yes, you may be the one with the right opinion or the right idea or the one on the right side of justice, or you are the one who was wronged, but you have to present your response or answer, or your correct position in such a way that the other person is not cut down, cut short, or even made to feel worse, scandalized, disgraced, or irreparably damaged, so that even in the way you are right, you can't afford to be wrong. This will probably include, rejoicing publicly or privately over your spouse's mistakes, pain, embarrassment, and so on. So the point is that you must not be taunting each other over things that either of you got wrong. Don't talk down to your spouse because you are right and then you want to make them feel bad or rub it in. And believe me, you don't want to go to the I told you so zone. Not if your goal is truly peace. Let your words be soft and gentle in case you have to swallow them. Now, I hope that we all know that every relationship, whether it involves two or more people, must have representation. That is, one person who takes responsibility, who is called the leader. Now, remember that I mentioned when talking about the nature of the lion that the husband is the leader. So, when there are issues or the need to resolve a conflict, the second step in the process of resolution is that the leader must step up and take responsibility, because the buck stops at the leader's table. What this means in essence is that the man, the husband, has to be the one who steps up to the plate and jumpstarts the reconciliation process. The leader always sets the tone, so they should be ready to make the first move as the husband, as the leader, whenever there is a conflict that needs resolution. Tough, right? But that's the burden of responsibility that the leader carries. However, does this husband's leadership requirement then absolve the wife of all responsibility? Because some women may just raise up their hands at what I just said and think, okay, I'm not the leader, so let him go ahead. He must be the one to always come to me, the first to say, I am sorry. Let me therefore share the balance that is needed now. Please understand that it is the responsibility of the wife as a lamb to be reasonable, okay? To be gentle in your actions and your reactions and the way you receive your husband's attempt at intervention and reconciliation. Don't make leading you and the family a bitter pill for him to swallow all the time. Your response is key. You have to consistently respond with the meekness that the lamb brings to the table, which is a part of your own nature as a wife, okay? I always advise wives and moms to try to treat their husbands the same way they would treat their sons. Dear wife, please see him the way you look at your son. You know how we as mothers gift our sons with unconditional understanding, and we do everything to absolve our children of blame and cover them, and then we can even go out of our way to take the blame for what they did if it was possible. Be prepared to do that for your husband as well. Already, most people jokingly say that your husband is always your first son anyway, so be prepared to cover him and correct him gently, the same way you would gently correct your own children or your son if he's not getting something right or he's not doing it the way you expect him to. Hold on. I'm not saying that you consistently excuse bad behavior, okay? Not at all. I'm simply saying that be gentle and understanding, the same as you would do for your kids. The next thing is that there must be no shifting or apportioning of blame. I remember when I was young, with my siblings as we were growing up, and there was an issue that we took to our dad for settlement. He would start by saying, well, I'm bringing resolution, I'm trying to settle the issue, not apportion blame, because there's always enough blame to go around. So, when you are working on resolving a conflict, it's not a time to trade blames. It's not the time to say things like, I told you so. Instead, it's the time for both of you to let love reign. Whatever it is, remember that you have a goal. So just keep your eyes on that goal. The goal is peace. Nobody can thrive in chaos. So working for peace is doing something good for yourself as well. And when there is war in a marriage, nobody wins. Let love make you put down your arms, like if you were coming in, with the intention of doing battle. Remember the love that God has for you, and then choose to remember the love that you have for each other, and let that love compel you to lay down your arms. This is about deploying the lamb and lion natures for the purpose of conflict resolution. The second scenario is about how to deploy the two natures of the lion and the lamb for decision making. Of course, conflict resolution and decision making require two different skill sets. Like I said earlier, the first thing is to set the goal for the exercise, of making a decision. In my opinion, the goals for decision making in marriage should be twofold. The first should be focused on the maximization of potentials, and the second focus should be about the fulfillment of purpose, with the purpose for the family ranking higher than the fulfillment of individual purposes. This means that the decision that you both make or arrive at has to be mutually beneficial, because it should be about the two of you anyway, with each person having the opportunity of bringing their best or A game, their best ideas and their best intentions to the table. So make room for each other, without one person thinking that they have the monopoly of good ideas. What this translates to is that you must always hear each other out and listen attentively, okay? The lion listens empathetically while the lamb gently and patiently redirects. Doing something consistently, builds capacity and confidence. So when you're not getting the opportunity to share your ideas, you stop thinking. And when your brain is not usefully engaged in doing what it was created to do, it loses function and gradually shuts down. This is why the leader must not only take responsibility, but also intentionally create opportunities. The second goal when it comes to making decisions should be about the fulfillment of purpose. This is of utmost importance, the fulfillment of the purpose of the family, that one that concerns both of you and perhaps impacts your children first and foremost, and then for each individual, which of course will be secondary to the first one. This ensures that one party, especially the leader, is not consistently imposing their will or goal on the other. After articulating your goals, the first step in decision making will be to determine what category the decision you are trying to make falls into. Is this something that is supposed to be mutually beneficial for both of you? Now, it doesn't mean that every matter under consideration must be equally beneficial, but it shouldn't be too lopsided either. Each person should be able to see that the decision, while promoting the family's purpose, is also delivering something for them personally as well. Now, having said that, please understand that there should be room in the marriage as well, for goals that may be beneficial to one party more than the other, and which, by mutual consent, can be escalated to the level of the goals that are mutually beneficial. Okay, let me try to give an example. So let's assume that you are coming together, to take a decision about maybe how to use your finance. Like maybe you just want some money, or you had a bonus given to you at work or something, and you want to sit down and decide how to spend your windfall. Now, I'm assuming that you both pool your resources together, right? Which is what you are supposed to do as a couple, although most of us are still struggling in that area. Actually, if you are struggling, that is, and you still want to walk in God's best purposes for your marriage, may I suggest that you start by setting it as a goal, something that you are pursuing, like the American Constitution that talks about pursuing a more perfect union. Right. So you come together, okay, and say, this is the amount that we have. This is the money that we've made, And the first thing you have to discuss is, what are the things that we need to do? The things that are mutually beneficial to both of us and are not lopsided in any way. And you take care of that first. And if you still have funds left over, then you want to look at the things that may benefit just one party. For example, maybe the sibling of one of you needs something, maybe they are in school, and they need somebody to help with paying a part of the school fees or even all of it. That is beneficial to one party only, right? And it is a need that must not trump or rank higher than what is beneficial to both of you. You shouldn't take the resources of the family and then use it to solve personal problems or meet personal goals or curry favor from people, even if you are the source of that money or you are the leader in the relationship, without the honest consent of the other person. Responsibility for extended family members must never ever rank higher than responsibility for your immediate family members. That's the bottom line for this example. You will also need to strike a balance here, by encouraging your spouse to openly discuss the needs and responsibilities that are personal and peculiar to their birth family situations before making decisions. Mutually beneficial goals rank first. But if you don't want your spouse to lie, and hide stuff from you, be ready to stand with them in taking responsibility for needs that belong solely to their own side of the family as well. You are one. And so you jointly own and share the benefits and responsibilities coming from either side. You need to see yourself as a part of your spouse's birth family as well, and make allowance for the needs that are coming from there. Quite often, the needs on one side might just be greater than those from the other side. Maybe one party, and it could be the husband or the wife, comes from a family where the members don't need much. But maybe on the other side, the other spouse's family members need a lot. In that situation, it will be selfish for you to insist on uniformity of allocation of the resources given to each side, while it will be insensitive for the spouse with the greater needs from their birth family, to channel everything to his or her family and give nothing to the other side in the name of they don't need it. Honoring your parents, for example, is not about whether they need it or don't, but about doing what is right so that you can earn God's approval and blessing. Last, under decision making, is to remember that neither of you knows everything. When it comes to decision making, neither party, not the lion or the lamb, knows everything that there is to know. Tautology, right? Yes, but it's that important. Common sense and humility actually teach us, if we are willing to listen, that nobody knows everything about anything. And when you realize that, you will know that when making decisions, you have to listen to the other person. Where are they coming from? What is their opinion about the matter? The fact that you are the lion doesn't mean that you come and you just lay down the law, or that your word is the law and nobody can challenge you, and everything that you have said or every idea that you float as the priest of the family is the last word and nobody says a word after you. That, my brother and sister, is tyranny. And that's not what God does, or the example that He has given to us. He says, come, let us reason together. He invites us to a roundtable conference with Him. Some husbands treat their wives worse than they treat children, especially when it comes to decision making. Very sad. You should listen to each other's opinion and then challenge each other to be the best. That should be the goal of every decision-making process. You are discussing and saying, oh, you are strong in this area. Oh, this is your own or my own area of expertise. This is your own strong point. So why don't you handle this? Look, giving others, especially your other half, the opportunity to shine doesn't make you any less. It doesn't turn you from a lion into a pussycat, and it doesn't transform you from a lamb into a doormat. It works for the benefit of the relationship, the family, the home, that you are able to identify who is gifted in what, and then allow them to deploy that gift for the common good. So don't cut down your spouse, but rather challenge each other to be their best, to bring their A game every time, to bring their best to every discussion, and compliment them each time they come with a good idea. Everybody needs validation. Finally, under decision making, what can you do? How can you share it if you do have a brilliant idea as the lamb? I believe that the better way to go about it when it comes to decision making is to come, as the lamb that you are, to presentation and negotiation, with your gentility and meekness, which actually signify maturity. I said in one of my earlier videos that the greatest skill every wife needs to learn is how to sell her ideas to her husband and make him think that they were his own all along. Okay. Now, the third and final scenario is about vision setting. How do you deploy the two natures of the lion and the lamb in the marriage for the purpose of setting a vision? Now, let me share an apt quote or phrase that I gleaned from my husband a while back. A leader should have the ability to catch, to craft, and to communicate a vision until it becomes a shared vision. Let me say that again. A leader should have the ability to catch a vision, to craft the vision, and to communicate that vision until it becomes a vision that is shared by those he or she is leading. Now, let's talk about the matter of catching a vision, especially as it relates to the family. Catching a vision is about perception. So, the leader should be able to perceive the direction that his family should be going, to have an understanding about what God is saying about the direction he wants to take that family. Let me interject here that God, in His wisdom and magnanimity, has provided a powerful interface for every husband in his wife. What I'm trying to say is this: the woman, the wife, is a type of the Holy Spirit in her marriage. And because she's a type of His personality, the Holy Spirit is more easily accessible to her in many instances. This is what I was alluding to when I said that even wives and mothers who appear weak on the surface are powerhouses of spiritual authority in an earlier video. The wife, expectedly, is more in tune, with the Spirit of God, especially when she's someone who has made the effort to hone her spiritual senses. So, when it comes to the issue of vision setting, every husband needs to pay attention to what his wife is saying, particularly if you know that your wife is a prayerful person. Pay attention to what she's saying, because sometimes by the time you come up with an idea or a vision, the Spirit had been communicating things about that idea or vision to her already. Maybe she just didn't speak up or talk with you because, well, you never pay any attention to what she's saying anyway. The Spirit is communicating maybe warnings or encouragement or caution, things that will bring further direction and clarity to what you are receiving as the leader. So probe her mind if you've never given her the liberty of sharing freely with you. A great example of this is documented in the book of Judges, chapter 14, where we had Mr. and Mrs. Manoah who were trusting God for a child. And then the angel who brought the good news of an answer was consistently appearing to the madam when she was alone and expecting her to go relay the message to her husband. And even when they both prayed for the angel to come back, he appeared to her again when she was alone. Imagine. And she was perceptive and powerful enough, to constrain that angel to wait while she go fetch her husband. That's what I'm talking about. The second step is to now craft the vision that was caught. Crafting the vision has to do with being able to sit down and build up the idea of vision into something that is doable. What are the steps that need to be taken, and what are the ways that we can build this vision? How can we translate this vision into mission and then into reality? Those are the things that you need to do, to craft the vision. This building up into steps that are doable is the responsibility of the leader. And you have great resources and capacity in your wife that you can tap from. God doesn't expect you to do everything by yourself. And if you are wise enough to realize that you need the Holy Spirit's help and input, remember to carry your wife along for easier access. After crafting the vision, you now need to be able to communicate the vision to your wife. And I'm sure I don't need to point out that your job at this level has been made very easy if you have actually carried your wife along, through the previous two steps of catching and crafting the vision. Your ability to communicate the vision without ambiguity is key, even where your spouse has had the opportunity to be involved in the process. Habakkuk 2 and verse 2 says, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." So if you are hoping for commitment and efficiency, you have to be ready to transfer that vision clearly to those that you are leading. Remember that the purpose of communicating clearly is to transfer the vision from your personal concept to a shared vision. When you help others see the positive impact and deliverables that the vision potentially has for them, how it benefits them, you will see that everyone will be ready to pay the price, and willing to put in their very best to make that vision their shared reality. But if it's been all you from the beginning, then you have your work cut out for you. Your assignment of communicating is more difficult because you now have to sell the vision to her, by making her see what her benefits are. And I believe I'm talking to husband leaders who are kind and considerate here. Those who see their wives as partners in progress and process. Insensitive leaders often feel no need to carry their spouses along, or sell their ideas or visions, particularly to her. Can I also add that if you carry a vision alone, without the buy-in of your wife and later your children as they mature, that vision is headed for failure because you can't single-handedly drive any vision successfully. But even if it manages to succeed, it will have probably cost you an arm and a leg, and you will be lucky if your spouse is only passive and not a saboteur. Vision setting. Catch the vision, chart the vision, and communicate the vision until it becomes a shared vision. My appreciation to you for sticking with me till the end of this video. I pray that you found everything I shared correctly informative and beneficial, especially in these climes of deception and manipulation at every level. Thank you also to all my friends and well-wishers who took the time to celebrate my 40th wedding anniversary on the last day of last month with me. Wherever you are on the spectrum of life, I pray that your story will be better, your relationships stronger, and your walk with the Lord deeper. See you next time. Shalom.